have a couple more teams for today, Gus. Let's see who the big
Now I'm
D's
really
got
hoping
for
that
us.
you left Freo out.
Your hopes are dashed, Gus, because we're doing Freo. Once again, like I'd probably say another hype team along with Essendon in terms of preseason and what the sides that people are expecting that could potentially improve and, in Freo's case, jump into the 8. I think that for me personally, I think their backline is really well established and set up. They've got a depth in those positions in the key posts. Brennan Cox can play there. We know Pearce is a gun when he's playing. Griffin Logue, I thought, played good footy. Luke Ryan. And then a swathe of running half-backs who are all pretty young and can potentially take those roles. I think the midfield's still pretty well balanced, even losing Chera. I think it's nice to have Chera in your team. Don't get me wrong, he's a gun, but they've still got a good midfield. Fife, Sarong, Brayshaw is as good a 3, as most teams would have, and then obviously Mundy's an ageless star. To me, the forward line is the only real issue with the best 22, and we've talked about this before, but Matt Taberner is a great number 2 forward who can stand up and kick the goals. Can they, I kind of think they probably can piece it together with their smalls, with, if they get enough goals out of Walters and Schultz, Frederick, some goals out of Fife. They might be able to piece enough goals together with Taberner kicking, maybe 2 goals a game and setting up some ground balls for the small forwards. But they really need one of those guys to emerge as a genuine gun goal-kicking small forward, I think, for that to happen.
Yeah, and or Rory Lobb finally reaching his potential, which I don't think that's going to happen realistically. Yeah. And they don't really have anyone on the list who to emerge as that second, like number 1 would be great. I mean, they've drafted Jai Miss, but he's obviously not going to be ready, I don't think, to play as a number 1 forward or even a number 2 forward for a team that makes the finals. And then after that, you're sort of left with backup ruckmans like Lloyd Meek and players like that. And I quite like Lloyd Meek, but
Tracy is he's more your second guy. That's the thing.
They've got a lot of dudes who could play as the secondary forward, but no real kit number 1, which is probably why they're going to try and get Logan McDonald back over there. I'm not sure if I have them in the finals, to be honest, which again would be pretty disappointing for them if they don't make it. But it's just that last year we saw too many times that and you talked about this a lot as well, too many times they went away from home and it just seemed that they packed it up halfway through the first quarter and we're just like, well, we're away from Perth, we're not going to win, see you later. And that's definitely very much a mental thing, obviously, but why is that getting better? And yes, okay, there's experience that might come along, but a lot of their players now are getting, I mean, there are obviously young players, there's Caleb Sarong, Frederick, dudes like that, but Fife, Taberner, the dudes in the back line, Walters, these are experienced players who were playing in these games and were part of these, collapses. And that has to be considered, I think. So until I see Freo go away from home and beat, it doesn't even have to be good teams, it could just be middle-tier teams, I'm going to struggle to say that they're going to make the finals, to be honest.
I think they've got a lot of improvement left in them from players who I think are going to be good players but haven't done it yet due to injury or other circumstances. So Griffin Logue, Hayden Young, we haven't seen much of yet, but he was a top pick. Jordan Clark's now come in and he's looked really good in the preseason. Sam Sturt, Chapman, there are players there who I think haven't yet fully tapped out into their potential, and they're still really young, so we're not riding them off yet. So they could see, I think, a lift from that group this year, and if that's what happens, then that would be the best thing that could happen with Freo this year. I've all off season I've kind of been hot on them as the team that I probably think will jump into the 8 and potentially even push for top 4. But during the pre-season, the last couple of weeks, I've kind of been a bit seduced by the form of like Richmond, Carlton, Saints, like those other teams that are fighting for those spots. I think have probably looked a fraction better than Freo. So I'm just holding off on that prediction for now because I think they still need to show a little bit more. And those other teams look like they're in pretty good nick. But I think I can easily see a world where Freo finishes, 6th this year and makes Perth Stadium a really big fortress in the way that West Coast simply won't be able to because the quality on the teams.